Now it's time for Markus Ehrle. Let me check. All right. Cool. Was that too fast? Can you post in the comments, or is it all right? Cool. I wanted to give Markus, or have as much time as possible for Markus. Just one question. Alan, are you recording? No? Yes?
Sorry, Remo was like super slow to unmute us and also do my camera. But yeah, we've been recording since we went live, so no problem.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Cool.
All right. Markus, I met you by accident. I'm super happy I talked to you and approached you. The stage is all yours. Rock on.
Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for having me. I mean, it's really an exciting community you're building here, and I think we need many more people like you guys to help our German economy to build exciting new startups. So thanks for sharing a little bit of my life today. Let me see. Here we go. So I hope you can all see my presentation slides. Yes, no, can you hear me? Any feedback? I cannot see anybody anymore now.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Awesome. So the header is Tales from Sales from Nerd to Leader, and basically that represents what I am. You know, I was born in 1971 in the Black Forest region, which is close to the French border, at the Rhine River in a little village called Offenburg. And at the time, my family was in the second generation of food producing for animal food, so basically for pigs and chicken and all you can imagine at the time. At the age of 12, I was the first time in touch with a computer, which you can see on the left side down there, which was a Commodore PET, which was really like the first generation pre-PC. With one 1 megahertz processor and BASIC as an operating system, and really green screen kind of stuff, because my dad changed to a mainframe system in his company and had an old computer, and I was 12 years old, so I was super excited. But of course, you can imagine when you're 12 years old, what do you want to do with a computer? You want to play games, but it was not really a games machine. So at that time, you could buy like magazines at the kiosks in the cities where you could basically have listings of basic programs, and that's when I started to program little very simple games on that computer to just be able as a young guy to play games. And of course, the games were not exciting enough, so I started to change the code, and that's somehow I got affected to computer programming languages. A little bit later, then I continued my education, and at the time of 17, that was still one of the key things. And of course, I mean, I was really considered to be a nerd at that time, because not many people had computers at home at that age and that time of the year. And so I wanted better computers, but of course they were super expensive. I mean, at the time, like that was the time when the 386 Intel arrived with the first Windows operating systems and graphical interfaces and so on. And they were super expensive. So I started to basically order parts from Asia and assemble those computers to have my own computer to be able to keep up with the latest technology at a reasonable price. And that led to many friends who also wanted computers, and then I started to start my own company at the age of 17, really ordering parts from Asia and assembling computers. At some point, like I had to deliver like 10 PCs a week, and of course at that age, first my mom had to register the company because I was not an adult yet in German law. And secondly, nobody would ever send me anything on an open invoice basis. Everything was cash, and all the parts for 10 computers were quite expensive at the time. And my mother worked at a bank and maybe made like 1,000 euros a month. And one morning, I still remember, I put like 20,000 Deutsche Marks with like 10,000 euros, at like almost a full year salary of my mom on the kitchen table, asking her to pay the UPS driver when he delivers the parts. And that was really a scary moment when my mom said I must do something with drugs or something illegal. No kid at that age can have so much cash. It was quite funny, but I think like one of the first learnings then was that I mean, I can only make that much money as I have time available every day and to assemble those computers. So and that was limited. And then at the age of 22, I became very young a father of a son, and that was a crazy business to be a parent and have some revenue like income which is stable and can help to support the family. So I really started to think about I don't want to be building computers every day from morning to evening and deliver them in the nights. So there was a local small company, distribution company in Oberkirch, also in the Black Forest, which was called Softline at the time. And it was a generation fax. So there was no internet, no email, no mobile phones, like nothing. So basically this company was sending out print catalogs to millions of people in Germany to sell like consumer products for like 100 euros at the time. And people have sent postcards back to this company. And then there were salespeople sitting in a room calling all those postcards and selling products on the phone for 100 euros. And that's what I did all day long, you know, and you can imagine after some time that was quite boring, because also, I mean, of course you could sell many products. You were not limited with assembly anymore, but for me, it was just not exciting enough to sell 99 euro products. And that was really the time when internet somehow started, like in 93, 94. And then there was a company called Netscape, and you see this logo on the screen. And at the time, Softline was a distributor of Netscape, and I started selling Netscape licenses to people in Germany. And then I literally ended up going to BMW and BASF and all the big companies and moving from 100 euro transactions to 100,000 euro transactions, which was quite exciting at the age of like 22, 23 I was then. And that was somehow super successful for the company and also for my personal career, because Netscape at some point asked me if I could join their then just starting German operations. So it was employee number 5 in Netscape in Germany to set up their channel business, because we were so excited about me selling so many Netscape products. And it was the first time that was in 1996. So that was then really, I had email and my first mobile phone. I was a young, super excited sales rep at an American software company, and my English was based on school English, and my understanding of international cultures was going from Baden to Württemberg and maybe Bavaria. So that was maybe the maximum I have experienced in my life from other cultures. I was the youngest guy there selling, and then I was confronted with like all those kind of American kind of lifestyle attitudes, selling strategies, which was quite tough at the time. And I was very lucky that I had a boss which was very, very sensitive with me and to me and helped me through those challenging times and always believed in me and supported me to become not only a good salesperson, but also to understand the political impacts of my behavior, which is not always the best at that age. On top of that, like I was then in a market when I was for the first time getting stock options, which was part of salaries in Germany at the time, or internationally at the time. And I had no idea what stock options are. You know, at some point, like I was like 1 year with Netscape, some of my colleagues asked me if I've ever exercised some of my stock options, and I had no idea what this is. So they put me on my brokerage account, and I've seen there was money, and I just need to press a button, and then suddenly there was money moved on my bank account, which was super exciting. But you can imagine at that age, the money was gone as quickly as it arrived on my account. So there was quite some fun time. And then in like 2000, I joined another company which was called Commerce One, which was a leader in digital marketplaces. At that point, it was really when all those B2B procurement portals started to arrive. Also super exciting company. And at that point, I was a bit more mature. I was just into my 30s, had done my first experience with American companies. And that was like I think the high season of the stock markets, you know, and I thought I'm now super smart. Again, I knew what stock options are. I got a ton of stock options from Commerce One, and I think stock was rocketing between 1990 and 2001, you know. So at some point I was like a multimillionaire with like $5 million, and I was just even 30, and I was already making my dream plans, like how can I retire at the age of 32 and buy a boat and do everything what is super exciting, you know. And then you know what happened? It was September 11 in 2001, and my 5 million somehow disappeared when the planes were crashing into the towers in New York. And then I still have this as a memory. I hope you can see this is a check which I got then from my broker a bit later, which was like 98 cents, which was the rest of my $5 million. Because I was too greedy, I thought like, oh, this is never ending. This will always go like this. The stock markets will rocket, and I will make a lot of money. So very good learning experience, and I think it was very positive to me, because I don't know what would have happened if at the age of 30 somebody would have put 5 million on my bank account. I don't think it would have had a good ending. Anyway, that was then the time which was really tough from an industrial and economic point of view, with the down market of all technologies, and the neue Markt in Germany was collapsing. And then I joined a little startup in San Francisco, which was called Trigo Technologies, and we are doing catalog software for electronic marketplaces, which was again during a tough time. It was not very easy to sell. It was a complicated product, very technology driven. But somehow there was a time when all the ERP vendors started to see data quality as a key priority. So IBM acquired this company, and then I was becoming from the smallest company in the world to the biggest IT company in the world, an employee of IBM in Germany, where I quickly realized that for a very ambitious salesperson, that was not really the world I wanted to be in. So I really like the culture of IBM from a point of education. I mean, this is one of the most professional companies in the world to educate people in all kind of professions, and of course they are very proud of all the patents. But if you're a super fast salesperson, the speed was just not for me. And I always wanted to work in the headquarters of a software company, and that was a time when SAP approached me if I could run their data management business. And I was joining SAP in 2006, and I still remember, you know, I mean, at that time I was again a very successful salesperson. I loved my job. I mean, selling is my DNA. I've never done anything else. And I joined SAP, and I told my boss, I mean, whatever you do, I want to be in sales, but never make me a manager, which is still a joke today when we meet each other, and we are laughing about that. So you can imagine, I was with SAP for like 6 months, and then my boss was promoted, and they needed somebody to succeed him. So who do they ask? Me. Okay, so I can do this for a while, but please look for somebody else. So keep the story short, I ended up at SAP after a few years with a big team. And I really liked starting to laugh, also not only to be a good salesperson, but also to help other people to become amazing salespeople. So that was my start into like larger management career. When in 2011, Salesforce approached me, and that was the beginning really when cloud was arriving in Germany, and I was super excited about the technology. In fact, I've worked with Salesforce already as a customer back in 2000 at Commerce One, where Salesforce was really active in of course many of the startup companies. And I started Salesforce 10 years ago in a Regus office in Schwabing, where we had like four offices and 30 employees doing tiny revenues, and I had a team of like 6 sales reps. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, and this is where I am now. And I think those 10 years have been super exciting from multiple areas, because I think that's when I really learned a lot of things which are very important to me today. And that's the lessons I want to share with you. And number one is really give your life a purpose. I mean, I have been driven by money, by success, by selling for most of my life, and it had pretty negative impacts in the end. You know, I mean, of course, it's fun to always have the nicest car and spend money on party and everything. But I mean, it's always going more, you know, and in the end of the day, it killed my marriage, and I ended up being divorced in just because of not really thinking what is important to me, you know. And that's when I really started to understand, number one, my family. You see my 2 kids in the middle upper section, my son and my daughter, and they're super important to me, and this is where I focus a lot of my energy. But also around my kids, you see some pictures from my engagements in non-profit organizations. One of the organizations I'm supporting in Munich is Smile Cambodia. They're building libraries and schools in close to Phnom Penh in Cambodia. I've been traveling and helping to build those schools, and then Kids Buyers, a US organization working for orphanages in Vietnam and some other areas of the world, where they try to teach kids IT skills and project management skills. And I mean, I can tell you the feedback you're receiving from kids smiling, the opportunity for them to grow and to learn. This is so amazing. I mean, and gives me so much energy to do my job every day. And it really reminds me every single day that money is not important. It's important what you do with the money. And there's so many other people in the world which are not as fortunate as we are. And that's something which is giving me a lot of energy in my job. Lesson number 2, be nice and respectful. And after some time, I started to look back and to try to understand why am I what I am, and who were the people who influenced me the most. And in the end, I mean, it always came back to one person, which was my grandpa, and he was my superhero when I was little, because he made fire with me and all the crazy stuff what my parents would never do, because they were also in the career mode and running a company. But my grandpa had really a lot of time for me, and the things I really always remember, and I think these are driving me, is the way of respect he gave to other people. You know, I mean, he was, as I said, running this company, producing food, animal food, and he was standing every like Easter, every Christmas, every now and then in front of the door and giving every worker 100 Deutschmark, and always talking to the secretary, to the cleaning people. It was always nice to everybody. He asked them how they're doing, how they're feeling. And I think this is super important. I mean, everybody in your organization is important. There's no boss or more important person than any other person. This whole thing called life and company and success is only working if everything is working and everybody is happy. And that's really something which is up to today super important to me, and never be not nice to any person because of the job they're doing. Lesson number 3, what I learned during my career is that think big, dream big. You know, I mean, it's very difficult for many people to really have a bold and big story, and that's for commercial reasons. This is for private reasons. Whatever you think. I mean, when you want to buy a house at the age of 12, and then you see you get like 20 euros in pocket money, then you can easily calculate that you will never be able to buy a house. But the one thing you need to remember, what people always forget, is the power of time. You know, over time, a lot of things will change, and you will have new opportunities and new possibilities to drive towards your big dream and your big target. And that's why I always try to motivate my teams, whatever the biggest dream you can have, and then make it even bigger, because I can guarantee you it will happen if you believe in it and if you make everybody else believe in it. Write it down, share it, and make everybody sure they understand it. And if you are aware with Steve Jobs and this expression of the reality distortion field, which comes from the Star Trek Enterprise series, that's one series is where some of the species made everybody believe in a new reality which was not really existing. And Steve Jobs somehow tried this in his own company by saying, okay, guys, you need to build a new product in 30 days. And everybody said it's going to take 9 months. And by continuously telling that they need to do it in 30 days, people started believing in it, and they were working towards this target, you know. And if you don't believe in something you're saying, then nobody else can believe it, you know. I mean, if you want to lose weight and don't believe that you can do it, then it will never happen. So those are really important things in driving a company, driving your personal career, driving your personal life. Always try to have a big, bold dream target and write it down and work towards it. Lesson 4 is like, it's really important to focus. You know, if everything is important, nothing is important. I mean, it's sometimes very hard and it sounds very easy, you know, to focus, but people tend to try to make everybody happy. And as a leader, it's not working to make everybody happy. You need to make decisions, and you need to make the right decisions for the company. And that means it will hurt some people, but in the end of the day, it's important to have everybody driving to the same target and focus and prioritize. At Salesforce, for the last 10 years, we have a very, very, very powerful methodology to do this, and I can only encourage everybody who's starting a company to start with this process right from the beginning. It's called V2MOM. It stands for Vision, Values, Methods, Obstacles, and Measurements. So first you define the vision of your company. What do you want to achieve? What are your values? What are the methods you want to use to make your goals happen? What are the obstacles? So what can stop you from achieving your targets? And how do you measure success? It's very funny. A lot of people don't have KPIs. They don't measure what are the successful outcomes of your decisions and of your mission and your strategy. And by writing this down, you can start a company very little with a very simple V2MOM. At Salesforce, we have a V2MOM for every single employee. So 70,000 employees have their personal individual V2MOM. If you're in sales, you have a V2MOM for your customer. If you're in engineering, you have a V2MOM for your product development. If you're in marketing, you have a V2MOM for your marketing strategy. So it comes down from the CEO over the board members down to the last employee. And this is really, really powerful. Balance your business. I mean, I think it's especially startup companies are struggling a lot between dreaming of big deals and run rate. I mean, you need to make money every day, and you need to somehow make your company attractive for future investment rounds. So you need some smaller deals, but you also need to have a strategy to work on the big deals. And big deals is basically a long run. You know, you're not going to close big deals just because you have a nice product. I mean, even for Salesforce with 20 years of experience and being a market leader, closing big deals is a shitload of work. And therefore, you need to hire the right people. And either you have very young, talented people who are super eager to also work 12 months with probably less or little commission, or you hire the people who have already experienced a lot of success and are not sitting on big financing rounds for the house and so on, and can live with a longer period of little income. But you need to set up a big deal strategy in your company right from the beginning, because this is what driving you in the future, and which is making your company more powerful and more efficient. And then last and fifth lessons, get the shit done. It also sounds very easy, you know, but people have often have a problem on making decisions because they're too afraid of making the wrong decisions, you know. And a lot of people in my organization, my direct reports, my employees, they're sometimes angry at me because they always say, you always make a decision without giving me the feeling to appreciate my feedback, you know, which is not the case, you know. I mean, but I rather have made a decision and maybe a wrong decision, and then I also have the honesty to come back and saying it was the wrong decision, than making no decision, because the company needs to move fast, and speed is really one of the most important things in any company these days. And then you can learn a lot from history. Most of the shit has already been there. One of my famous books, and I've like mentioned here 3 books which I can encourage you to read. It's a German book from Günter Ocker, who was a journalist of Kapital magazine in Germany. Kauf dir einen Kaiser. It's basically the story of the Fugger family in the medieval times in Europe, and this is super exciting because he's writing this based on history, based on commercial success. And I can tell you 80% of what's happened in 1700 is still happening today. There's no difference. Then there's a lot of scientific books, and Malcolm Gladwell is one of the famous authors. I can recommend one of his famous books is David and Goliath. Here's a few more. And here's some very nice messages. Like one very famous line is, you need to do whatever you do 10,000 hours to be professional. So 10,000 hours in sales, 10,000 hours in development, 10,000 hours in marketing. So by changing continuously between topics and areas of interest, you'll never have a chance to really become a professional. And then Steve Jobs is one of the leaders I admire, and his biography is really super useful to read. And then take all this and be you. I mean, if you're not authentic, I mean, you cannot be a mini Steve Jobs and you cannot be a mini Malcolm Gladwell. You are you, and you have amazing skills and amazing attributes. Take them and mix them up with what other people have already experienced, and then I think you can be super successful. So I hope I didn't kill your whole agenda now, Alan and Philip, but that's basically it. So really in a short run through my life, some of my major learnings, experiences, I hope they can help you to be successful in your careers, in your life, and looking forward to some questions.
What do you think, Alan?
Amazing. I wasn't expecting it to be so personal, to be honest, Marcus.
Yeah.
I had no insights on this, and I have so many questions for you, but
Yeah.
I really appreciate how personal it was. That was a real special presentation. I think a lot of people can take even just one of those lessons, and if they take action on that particular lesson that they choose that works best for them, I think there's a lot of nice gems in there. So thank you so much for sharing. It's been really, really great.
Welcome.
Definitely. I can totally. Actually, we have a lot of questions in the Q&A section. If you have a question for Markus, please post and vote in the Q&A section. Wow, I was blown away yesterday already. Today again. One question is, for example, how did you, as a 20-year-old, persuade BMW to buy from you? Because, I mean, how? Especially because such big deals.
I mean, age is not the point, you know. I mean, you always have to be reliable. I mean, it's basic principles in life which I admire. You know, I mean, it's you have to be on time. You have to reply. You have to be reliable. I mean, that's what customers want. It's not the age, you know. I mean, the point is that many people in younger years they don't see these values as important anymore, and people tend to forget this, you know. But I mean, for big companies, they just want to be a reliable business partner, and it doesn't matter how old this business partner is, you know.
Yeah, very good. Next question: do you have a V2MAN for your private life?
Oh, I do, of course, but I think this is going too far here now.
Yeah, no. Of course. But did you break it down into different areas like health, business, or family? How do you structure that? Because I love that you make plans, and because only then you can achieve the goals, I think. But how can you give us a little bit more?
I mean, I started when I was very young, you know, and as I said before, you know, but like most of the wishes and plans I had when I was like a young person was very clear that I can never achieve it based on my income. And this is why I'm saying, you know, yes, at that point it was absolutely impossible. But I learned that, I mean, time is so powerful, you know, and if you just keep working on those targets, you know, I mean, if you want to buy an apartment, for example, you know, at the age of 22, and the apartment is 400,000 euros, you know, that 400,000 euros is a tough thing to finance, you know, so you need like 50, 60,000 euros. So if you have a plan that you want to buy this apartment, then you start saving money, and then you have little money in the first 2-3 years, then money becomes more, but you start having a plan to put money aside. If you don't have this plan, then you just spend the money and it's gone. And there's no reason why would you put 100 euros? You say 100 euros has no impact, but 100 euros over 20 years has a lot of impact.
Good point.
So,
very good point.
Suppose half the battle is just sitting down and thinking about what you want to do, right? Because then that gives you the purpose and the goal of making the right decisions to get there, right?
And then starts driving all your behavior.
Yeah, powerful. Yeah.
Wow. Alan, you want to go for the next one?
Yeah, sure. Next question is how to hire the right people. So how you can evaluate a startup team without knowing what type of questions would you ask them, or maybe they mean what would be the interview process potentially?
So I really like in interviews to find out who the people are. I don't want to hear, I mean, I'm running the sales organization of Salesforce in Germany. I have about 100 account executives working in my organization in my direct reporting line. And of course, they're some of the best salespeople. So if you go in an interview with them, they can sell you anything. I mean, if they wouldn't be good salespeople, then we wouldn't probably hire them. And if they wouldn't tell me any story, so that's meaningless, you know. I mean, those are interviews which are just like you don't need to do them. So I try to find out what is the person behind, you know, what is driving, what are the interests, you know. I mean, one of the key topics for me is equality, for example, you know, and if you start having discussions in this direction, a lot of people start putting it down to gender equality, which is total bullshit, because we don't want to put a woman into a position that they make a career just because they're women. You know, it's about driving the understanding in the interview process. What is important? What are important values to you? You know, and then you can quickly find out if this is like this bullshit bingo what they've read somewhere, or do they have an opinion? Do they have their authentic, original opinion, which is helping me, because I'm not perfect. I mean, there's so many things I'm learning every single day, and I want people to tell me that I'm an idiot, to tell me that I'm doing wrong things. You know, I mean, I spoke to Philip yesterday. I hate agendas and I hate structure. Like if you go into a meeting with me, I'm jumping from here to there. It's totally crazy, you know. And nobody ever told me. I mean, I'm the boss. Why would I mean? I'm like blah blah blah. You know, I mean, I don't care about titles, you know. But in the end of the day, companies work in hierarchies, and people are afraid of telling me the truth, you know. So I keep going into my meetings with no agenda, and then at some point I had like one very brave employee saying like, "I hate your meetings." I mean, totally. And I said, really, why? And I was like, I need an agenda. I mean, my brain is working in structures. I need to go from point to point to point. And I said, okay, great. I understand that, you know, and then you somehow realize equality is not gender. It's like people are thinking differently. People are working differently. People have a different understanding of culture. Like I said, when I was working at Netscape, my cultural understanding was Baden-Württemberg and Bavaria, you know. I mean, American culture is different to British culture, to French culture, to Swiss culture. And people, I mean, if people are not aware of that, I mean, you can have the best salesperson, but they can never be successful if they're not mindful to the world and mindful to their customers. You can have customers from different cultures, from different sexual interests, from different genders. They can so many things, you know. And this is how I drive my interview process to really find out what the people are, you know. And sometimes I'm mean and I'm asking them mean questions, but this is a different story. We can do another 1 hour session about interview processes.
Did you ever ask someone to sell a pen to you?
I mean, this is like Wolf of Wall Street. This is a bit too...
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you know, from one salesman to another, you know.
This is not my kind of selling. So
cool. I think it's better to get to know them personally, for sure.
Yeah.
What's your secret to selling?
I think, I mean, from the technical point of selling, I think make it personal, make it emotional. These are the two tendencies, and sell a story. I mean, if you want to sell a product and you keep talking about the features, it's a different story and say, hey, do you see this watch? You know, this was the watch when my first son was born, and there's a story attached, and it gives the person just a different understanding, you know. And if you sell technology like Salesforce technology or our products, try to make it understandable for people who are not technology experts. I mean, typically the buyer of your product and the one who's giving you the money is not the one who's using the product. So it's very tough to sell a development tool to the CEO of the company, you know. So you need to provide a different story there, you know. And don't be so arrogant and so naive to think that all people are tech experts, you know. I mean, even I like. I mean, now I'm fortunate I can talk to CEOs. I mean, I'm meeting many CEOs of many large companies, you know. I mean, you tell them all this like, oh, Salesforce CRM and customer database and marketing journey and blah, blah, blah. You know, so they have no clue. They don't even know what Adobe is. I mean, how can I be so, I mean, for me, this is, I mean, of course I know all this, you know. But it's normal. You do blah, 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 blah. You kill the guy, you know, he's dead in a minute, and then cool. Try to make it simple and easy and make a story behind, you know. And I'm not bashing Adobe; it's a great company. I'm just saying, you know, they also don't know Salesforce. I mean, I have people calling me Salesforce. Are you a people renting agency or whatever? I mean, it's getting better now. It's getting better now. Years.
But I think that's great advice. All the startups should listen up, because that's the number one problem we get, particularly when it's a student, a fantastic, innovative postdoc or someone, PhD student from TUM, and they're trying to sell us this amazing tech, and you just can't get it through to my head. Yeah. What is the value here? Like, how is this different than other products in the market? What's the business model? How is it going to make someone's life better? And that's a really hard thing sometimes from a tech background when they're trying to present a startup. So great advice to make it personal, emotional.
I mean, that's a rare combination, right? A techie and a salesperson. I haven't seen that so many times. I think we're going to do 5 more minutes, and at 8 o'clock, we're going to start with the pitches, if that's okay. So there are a few more questions. Maybe we can do like a 1 minute or 1 sentence answer. Maybe we can get through all of them. All right?
Okay.
Okay, cool. What legacy do you want to create for yourself as a senior vice president?
What legacy? How do I understand this?
I suppose what you want to be remembered for, I suppose, in a way, what you want to leave behind maybe in Salesforce after you're gone.
That's a good question.
It's a hard one.
I don't think about the time after Salesforce yet. So it's just such an amazing company. I have so much fun. And by the way, we are still hiring. So I mean, I like what I said from my values. I mean, be respectful. You know, I just want to be remembered as a person who had was a respectful leader in the organization, had an open ear for the organization and was driving the business on a fair. I mean, it's tough. We're in the sales business. It's not like kindergarten, but it still needs to be fair and respectful.
Nice, thank you. Do you have any tips how to focus and optimize your daily schedule to spend as much time on the important things, family, health, etc.?
It's very easy for me. I have a PA who is managing that, so she's not. She's the most important person in my life, really, after my kids. So no, seriously. I mean, saying no is probably the toughest thing in human beings. I had a very hard time. For most of my career, you want to be liked. People want to be liked, independent from business or whatever. And saying no is not something which is nice to other people. So but you have to. As I said, if everything is important, nothing is important. You have to make sure that you focus on the things which are really important, having an impact, and say no if you can. It's not helping you, it's not helping the company, it's not helping anybody if you try to please everybody.
That was my question, Markus, so thank you very much. I've heard that many times before, but it's always good to hear it again. Say no.
And Ellen, get a PA.
Maybe I can hire my cat, and teach him something.
Okay, great. Let's skip ahead. What brought you to where you are right now? What's your key success factor?
I think, as I said a few times now, have the basic values. People like to have people with values around themselves. I don't want those like bullshitters, how you call them. There's many people who can talk a lot, but are not reliable, not executing, not delivering on the promises. I've always been very focused on, if I promise something, I do it. And there's no maybe or whatever. And if I can't do it, it's also okay to say, hey, sorry, I can't do it. But living in a world and dreaming that things will disappear by themselves, not going to work.
Yeah.
Get the shit done.
What about your own startup? Did you ever think about creating your own startup or joining maybe a new startup? Can people recruit you as a business person for their startup tonight?
In fact, I'm also an angel investor. So I'm over the last years I've invested in a couple of companies, and it's super exciting. I like to share my experience, and I know it's very helpful for many of those startup companies. And it's at some point I was thinking of doing it, but then I missed the point, and it is exciting to have an impact in a big organization like SAP or Salesforce, and to learn from it, and it's so exciting every day, that I could not imagine going back to zero and starting a company. I'm probably a bit too old for that also now, but it's challenging. If I see those founders, it's like you have your baby, you need to sell your baby, you need to feed your baby. How do you want to sell your baby? You say, oh, it poos and it cries, and it's all drama basically, and then you try to make the baby look more attractive, but it's still the baby, and at some point you need to kill the baby, because you understand that it's not how you make money, and those are a lot of things which are very, very tough, you need to have also the understanding, your growth strategy, how you bring other people into the company, step out, give the baby in other hands, and it is a very complex process, and again, this train has gone away from me. So but I love to help. I love to be the person to tell other people to kill the baby and stuff like that.
That's a fun job.
I would love to have you as a mentor at our program someday. What kind of startups are you investing in or looking for? What are your criteria?
It's basically in an area which I understand. I have been a nerd, but it's 30 years back, so I'm not too much of a geek anymore. So I would not invest in too much technology-driven companies. I'm mainly focused on B2B businesses with a product which I can sell a story. I have an amazing network. I know a lot of people. I've seen a lot, and number one, I can help and coach and also use my network to help those companies.
You see so many, when you interact with so many businesses in B2B and the B2B area, what are some good startup ideas? Do you have startup ideas where you're like, hey, somebody should build that?
I mean, if I would do something today, I would do something, of course, in the Salesforce ecosystem. You know, we have this App Exchange platform, which is like the App Store from Apple, where you can develop applications around Salesforce. And the one thing I'm thinking, if I quit Salesforce for some reason at some point in time, I was thinking of building a Salesforce for nonprofit organizations, because one of the things I'm seeing, not only to work with nonprofits on the area of helping children and working with them, is the organizational effort of a nonprofit organization in the administrative way is super intense, you know. And I think there's a huge market to helping those organizations on building a CRM platform, helping them in this area. So that's something I was thinking of a lot in the past years, which is probably one of my next chapters. Other than that, I mean, everything what is focused on the customer. I think this is a change in the world that people for many years, you know. I mean, I always tell the story when after World War II everything was destroyed, you know, and people had the only interest of building production capacity, and you know, and your unique differentiator was that you could produce a product. And that was until like the 80s, 90s, you know, Germany was building manufacturing capacity. And then everybody had manufacturing capacity, so it was not a differentiator anymore. So you need a salesperson. So Germany started to build a retail channel. You know, we have the biggest retail industry in the world. I mean, everything goes through a dealer: cars, products, sausages, bread, whatever. There's always a retailer for something, you know. And that was then from 1980, 1990 until the 2000s when e-commerce started, you know. And then all the e-commerce dealers came, so you didn't need any retail anymore because you could move everything online, you know. But it's also not a differentiator anymore. Everybody can go on Shopify or whatever and put a web shop. So now it's really customer experience, you know. And I think laziness equals success, you know. If you can make your customers lazy, then you can be successful. Because, I mean, if you go to Amazon today, if you're a Prime customer, you never go somewhere else because it's so easy, it's convenient. You don't have to put any effort in any ordering process. And that's what you need to focus on. I mean, you can have the best and most amazing product. If it sucks to get a product, and if it sucks to have the service, if it sucks to work with the product, I mean, you will not succeed. This is the decade of customer experience, you know, and everything you could develop in that space to help companies to improve the customer experience. I think this is something which for sure the next 10 years will be super successful. And yes, there's AI and everything, but this is back-end technology. I mean, this is just a fact, you know. I mean, you don't need the 10,000 AI algorithm, you know. AI only works with data, and there's companies like SAP, like Salesforce, like Adobe, Amazon, they have a shitload of data. And if you help them to make this data actionable, to use the data to make it convenient for the consumers and the customers, I think that's something where I would invest.
Cool, thank you. Can I ask one last question? I promise it's the last one, but it's a hard one. It's from Peter Thiel, and he often asks the question, what important truth do very few people agree with you on? What's something that you discovered or that you think is important, something that you know that people don't realize yet that it's coming?
From a technology point of view, or?
Yeah, for example.
It's a tough one. I think it will be. I think the way how we communicate today with smartphones and stuff, this is something which will, for sure, in 10 years be completely disappeared. I don't know yet what it will be, but for sure we will not work with smartphones anymore. I think the death of the iPhone is already started. You know, I mean, if I see my daughter, you know, for example, I mean, a lot of the features with voice recognition. I come from a non-mobile world. I still type my WhatsApp messages with my fingers into the screen. My daughter, she would never do this. She would talk to the phone and use all the voice recognition features, you know. And if I looked at the Apple Watch, and I think in a few years everything will be voice and somehow totally without any human touch interface kind of operations. It's still a bit saggy today because it's not always understanding you, but this will disappear in no time, you know.
Yeah.
Clubhouse will release their own phone, and then we're sorted, you know.
Again, you don't need it will not be a phone, it will be whatever, you know. It will, maybe they will put a chip in your brain, or I don't know, but it will be something very scary.
Neuralink, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Cool.
I
Thank you
will
so
be
much.
retired by then.
Well, it was super inspiring, Markus. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, guys.
I think, well, yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you very, very much.
Good luck with
Can-
startups. Everybody who wants can connect me on LinkedIn. If there's any exciting idea you want to talk about, I mean, I have not infinite amount of time, but try it now to take the learnings to make it a nice sales pitch to me, you know, and then maybe I can identify a super exciting opportunity where I want to spend more time on.
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Markus. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Markus.